What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is season 6, part 1 of the reunion. And I'll say this, I would give this part 1 a 6.5. There were moments where I was really entertained and tickled, okay? But I don't think this needed to be 3 parts. We could have parked it at 2 and called it a day, okay? But 2 things. Number 1, I told y'all about Whitney and Heather. I told y'all they the real villains, okay? And, Lisa, you impressed me. Because y'all know Lisa be floundering at the reunions. But this part 1, I said, okay. Somebody took her vitamins. Somebody got at least a good 9 hours of sleep. Because she didn't even cry. I was expecting some tears to come out and her to start screaming. But Lisa said, if you will listen. I said, oh. We practice self-control. I loves to see it, okay? Well, let's get into this review. Y'all know sometimes before we get in to the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I just have a few things I want to talk to you guys about. So first up, I did do a standalone spicy corner. I'll put the thumbnail on the screen and y'all already know the link will be in the description box below. But in that video, I talked about Lisa Barlow and a couple of tweets she sent out during the reunion, Meredith doing an interview with 2 T's in a pod, as well as Monica responding to a portion of that interview where her name was brought up, as well as Heather's name was brought up. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description box below. So moving on, congratulations are in order to Miss Lisa Barlow, because Lisa will be a part of the principal cast for the new Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. The cast will feature Portia Williams, Lisa Barlow, Kyle Richards, Luann de Lessept, Teresa Giudice, and Vicky Gunvalson, okay? So they're going to be going around town. Y'all know it's the 20th year anniversary for Real Housewives, and they will be stopping, or allegedly, they're supposed to be at least them seeing 60 to 70 different housewives. I said, my God, on the day. All right. But the thing that got a lot of people excited was that Nene will be featured in one of the episodes. There's also information, I think Kempire dropped this tea, because I didn't hear him say it, but I saw somebody talking about it on Twitter, that there will be a scene with Karen, Nene, and Stacey in Atlanta. If that's true, that's going to be a good scene, because it's going to be nothing but laughs, and I'm going to be here for it. I'll be totally here for it. So the last thing I want to talk about with you guys, again, has something to do with Lisa. So y'all know Lisa said that she was hanging out with Ben Affleck, and that was something that was brought up in the reunion. Well, Ben Affleck is doing like a media run with Matt Damon. Supposedly they have like a movie coming out. I don't pay attention to either one of them, okay? But the interviewer from Access Hollywood asked him, did he know Lisa Barlow? So it says this, help. An interviewer asked Ben Affleck about Lisa Barlow and whether he knows her. He was sweet with the answer. He honestly had no idea and said he couldn't be sure, so he didn't want to say anything that might embarrass her. He seemed genuinely confused. He meets so many people. How could he remember? Hashtag RHOSLC, source Access Hollywood. So let me play that clip for you.
You know your name has come up in the zeitgeist of reality TV yet again on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Okay, it's Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Cast member Lisa Barlow is saying that she was with you at an event with her husband and she wasn't able to film. Her cast members don't believe her.
Also, I have a work thing. It's like a big deal.
Really?
I think what people forget is like I have a very full life because I keep it kind of private.
Okay.
And like I'm not going to drop names, but like I'll be with Ben and Blake.
So the question is, do you know who Lisa Barlow
No,
is?
I don't want to get anybody in trouble, or I don't know what this is, but I don't. An event
This
in
is
Salt
her.
Lake City. And
No, you wouldn't get her in trouble.
But prove to me right or wrong.
Yeah.
She's
Wait,
saying
You're not
an
sure.
event like at Sundance or
Yeah.
something?
What was the
like
event? I don't understand.
She is a big Sundance girl. She didn't specify the event. She
but
said
it was in
a few
Utah.
months
When was the
ago.
last time you were in Utah?
That
It would probably be Utah.
I haven't been in Utah in, I don't know, 9, 10 years. I don't know. I can't think.
Okay, so you might know her.
I don't. Doesn't look familiar to me, and I don't remember anything, and I don't want to embarrass her because I also could.
There are a lot of people at these events.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I say I know a lot of people. I don't want to be the jerk who is like, I did meet you, and it's you don't remember when you meet.
Yes.
I don't think I'm qualified to weigh in on this, whatever this raging controversy.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, a lot of people were wondering if Lisa was going to respond, and she did, but she did it in a very professional way because y'all know Lisa don't play about her businesses. But she said this, SXSW. If you don't know what that stands for South by Southwest, which is, I always thought it was a music festival, but when I Googled this acronym, it said that it was a, what's it called? A film festival. So, but they also do have like a music portion. I never knew they had a film festival portion of it. But Lisa says SXXW with 3 hearts. Then she says The Accountant 2 with 3 hearts. And she says, and it was a great movie and party. Then a guy by the name of Eric Stylings added Angie in the comments saying, "Grr, have you seen this yet?" And Angie commented back to this guy by saying, with 3 laughing emojis. He didn't know Lisa, but he recognized Cecilia. A laughing emoji with the finger painting emoji and a poodle emoji. Is Cecilia her dog? Doesn't Angie have a poodle? Or am I like making that up? I feel like we saw Angie with a poodle. I don't know, but I guess she said Ben Affleck knew who Cecilia was. I don't know. I don't know, because they didn't ask him who the dog was. I don't know what Angie talking about. But I did Google The Accountant 2, and it did come out in 2025, and it was shown at South by Southwest. So Lisa's not lying about that portion. I'm gonna be honest. I see a lot of people using this as like a get you gotcha moment for Lisa, but I didn't take it as that. I mean, it is funny for the internet. Like it is for giggles. But when Lisa told Angie she was gonna be with Blake Lively and Ben Affleck, I did not take it like she knew them people personally. I didn't. I took it as like she was gonna be at a party where they were going to be. It's similar to when everyone was going to the Cowboy Carter concert and people were like, oh, I'm about to go be with Beyonce, or I'm about to go see Beyonce, or me and Giselle are about to kick it tonight. I saw a lot of people putting that on Twitter and on Instagram or underneath their pictures when they posted. Like, I didn't think that she personally knew them. And I mean, that doesn't mean she don't, but I didn't think that. So everyone being like, ha ha to Lisa, I was like, y'all took that literally? Because I don't like Lisa is delusional. So I didn't take it as that. But that's just me. If you did, laugh on, okay? But let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So let's get into this review. Clearly, it's a new day, new clothes, new vibe. I had a plan yesterday. I didn't get to execute it, okay? I went out with family, had 1 blue motorcycle, okay? That's a step down from a Long Island iced tea. Mind you, I like blue motorcycles. I normally am good on a blue motorcycle. That bartender back there, that lady had to be just pouring the alcohol in that drink, because I only had 1. And girl, I was out for the count. I was out for the count. But we here today, okay? We are here today, and we're going to get this review out of the way, all right? So the episode opens up, and we don't even get what we normally get with reunions, where Andy is going to the women's different dressing rooms, seeing how they're doing, or seeing other cast members go and see each other to check the temperature with everybody. Actually, we see the producers on stage, fluffing up the pillows, making sure the stage is correct. There was this one scene that they showed of this guy on this ladder. He looked over it. Like, in his head, he was saying, I'll get paid enough to be on this stage like this, on this stupid ladder. I mean, because he looked down, somebody said something, and the man was like, what else you want me to do? I thought it was funny. I know it was random, but it was funny to me, so I wanted to share it with y'all. So we get on the stage. I stand by what I say. I still think Angie was the best dressed. Heather is still worse dressed to me. Because, girl, that outfit made her look old. Like, it was giving Mother of the Bride circa 1975, girl. And then the hair pulled back, and that jawline is chiseled. Okay? People were not playing when they said online, Heather has a founding father's face. But y'all gonna laugh at Lisa getting a facelift. Let's not do that, girl. Because Heather, I don't know what you're doing with your face. Because mind you, when I first watched the reunion, I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't even notice Heather's face. I thought she looked the same, but I saw people saying things about how they feel like she changed her face. And I said, I don't see that. I watched the reunion a second time, you know, to really get my notes, get my screen grabs and stuff so I can edit and all of that stuff. Bro, when she started yelling and arguing back and forth with Lisa, y'all, it looked like her jaw unhinged and got longer. It looked like it had an extendo stick. Next thing I know, I hear, here comes the Crimson Chin theme music. But the evil Crimson Chin, Nega Chin, okay? Because Heather, you are the villain of Salt Lake City. You are the villain of Salt Lake City. Jen took her crown with her when she went to prison, but you picked it right on up. Well, you got a new one, because if she took it, she couldn't get, because, you know, she's scamming, so she had to take it with her. But you went to the store and got a new one, because you really are the villain of this show, okay? You think you not, but you are. Or maybe you do know you the villain, but you're not okay with looking like the villain. Either way, girl, you got to stop whatever you doing. Either get off the Ozempic, or pick up some protein and start getting a little. Can you put filler down here in your jaw? I don't know. But you need to do something, because... no, ma'am, girl. No, ma'am. All right. So Andy goes around the stage saying hello to everybody, you know, and telling them how nice they look and all of that stuff. And then he circles back to Meredith, and he ends up asking Meredith, like, what is your goal for the reunion? Meredith ends up saying, you know, I can't really answer that question until I get clarity from Whitney, pretty much. And that will change the trajectory of this reunion for me based off of her answer. So Meredith lets it be known that Whitney tried to talk to her during BravoCon and said that she wanted to clear the floor with her. So Meredith's like, Whitney, I'm giving you the floor, so clear the floor, girl. So Whitney ends up being like, you know, okay, it's no excuse, but I was really drunk. Or she says, I drank a lot at BravoCon, which she should have said I was drunk at BravoCon, them 4 or 3 days. I don't know how long BravoCon is. I think it's 4 days. I feel like it's 4 days. But either way, she was drunk. Like, the Brooke Ashley talked about how drunk Whitney was at the live taping of Watch What Happens Live, the holiday special. Rodney The Voice talked about how MJ from Shots of Sunset, but now... The Valley, Persian Style, how she said that Whitney was pissy drunk to the point where one of the Tom-Toms had to help her to the bathroom. And I also saw people who were just, you know, going to BravoCon because they wanted to go. They weren't content creators, talking about how every time they saw Whitney, it looked like the people around her were chaperoning her because she was that drunk. One lady even said that she saw, I don't know if it was an interview or an interaction between somebody, but it was Whitney, Brittany, and Heather. And Whitney was in between Brittany and Heather, and it looked like they were holding her up because Whitney was that drunk. So, girl, you was drunk, girl. It was giving frat boy wasted on opening season game day. Okay, you need to get that together, because it is crazy for you to be out here trying to push this narrative that Meredith may have an addiction problem to alcohol or other substances, and we don't know. We not with Meredith 24/7, but I don't want to hear it from you. Somebody whose father we have seen with that ugly toupee, who we know is still battling the spirit of addiction out there in them streets, because you don't even speak to him because he can't get clean or get his life together right about now. And they telling us that addiction is hereditary. So you might want to sweep around your own doorstep, as the old people say, before you ever come from somebody else in they situation. Because, girl, it is embarrassing. And you could tell that Whitney was embarrassed because her voice was really shaky. And she wanted to keep reiterating that she apologized to Andy. And she was trying to make it cute, being like, well, you know, I'm a happy drunk. I just like to love on people. That doesn't change the fact that you were pissy drunk on a work trip. Because that's what BravoCon is for the Bravo celebrities. It's a work trip, Whitney. Like, you're at work. You're representing yourself, which is a brand that you have curated for us, the viewers. You're also representing your franchise, and you're representing the network. It's one thing to be a little tipsy. A little tipsy. It's another thing for multiple people to see you multiple days wasted. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, Whitney. And you could tell Whitney felt ashamed because her voice was shaky as she was talking about being drunk. So then she goes on to say that she pretty much tried to have a conversation with Meredith. She wanted to tell Meredith like she was sorry for how things had went and how things had fallen apart between them, and she wanted to be friends with Meredith. But then Whitney says, but I'll never try again with you. And Meredith said, good, because I don't want it, pretty much. I don't want this friendship. So then Whitney says, I don't get how I've always supported you, which is a lie, because Whitney, you have been one of the main people since season 1 who has always had something nasty to say about Meredith. And I'm saying this as someone who is not really a fan of Meredith. I'm pretty much indifferent towards her. But if you watch the first season and if you've seen different clips of like the second and third and even fourth season, like they have, like Whitney has always had an issue with Lisa and Meredith. So her sitting on this stage lying about she's already supported her is a crock of you know what. She then goes on to say, when Lisa said such awful things about you, I was there for you. So then Lisa jumps in and she's like, girl, you've said just as worse things about Meredith. All of us have said things about Meredith. So just don't put that on me. It's not just me. So like, you're not going to sit here and call me out. And so Lisa goes on to say, you've called us whores. You've called us cheaters. So then Whitney gets mad because Lisa is chiming in and she's like, Lisa, shut it. And so then Meredith is like, don't tell her to shut up. Don't tell her to shut it. She can speak if she wants to. And Lisa ends up telling Whitney, don't tell me what to do and don't bring me into something if you don't want me to speak on it. And I said, yeah, why did you even bring her up, Whitney, if you didn't want to hear what she had to say? You basically tried to bring a comparison between you and Lisa, and you didn't think Lisa was going to pipe up? She don't like you, Whitney. What are we talking about? So then Whitney is getting increasingly frustrated throughout the argument. So then Mary, you can hear her say, just relax, take your time, because she can tell that Whitney is getting frustrated and upset. And so Whitney ends up saying they're always doing this. They're always sticking up for each other. Like Lisa's always talking for Meredith. But in this moment, girl, you brought her into it. Whitney, what are you not getting? So then as the conversation continues on, Whitney ends up saying, you are trying to take what was said at BravoCon and like spin it. You're lying on me and you're lying about it. And Meredith's like, no, I'm not. That's what you said. And so then Whitney says, I stand by everything that I said about the plane incident and everything I witnessed. So then Andy ends up asking Meredith, so how would the trajectory of the night go? And Meredith says, it is what it is. Like, we'll have to wait and see. But pretty much saying, like, I already know what type of time she on, so I know what type of time I'm going to be on. Okay? So then Whitney says, are you going to apologize for lying about me, Meredith? And Meredith is like, I didn't lie. You're the one that lied. So what am I apologizing for? So she was like, Meredith says, like, you're the one that was drunk the whole entire time at BravoCon. So I don't know what I'm lying about. So then Whitney was like, I've already apologized to Andy about that. That's on me. Okay? And Andy said, yeah, we were just scared you wouldn't make it across the stage during Watch What Happens Live. And so Meredith ends up saying something to Lisa where she's like, so we're going to believe her that she remembers everything even though she was blacked out drunk. So then Whitney hears that and she gets angry and says like, you're lying, Meredith. You lied about me. And don't call me a liar, Meredith. And Meredith is like, girl, I'm calling you what you are, a liar. And so then Whitney's like, stop it, Meredith, stop it. And so Meredith says, you need to stop it. Don't tell me what to do. And so Whitney says, you need to own your Meredith. And Meredith says, I own the things that I have done. I don't own things that I did not do or things that y'all have created up to try to make it seem that I did something to you. So then Whitney's like, you're playing semantics, Meredith. You're playing semantics. And she's like, all right, girl, whatever. And so then Meredith says, you don't like to hear the truth. So I'm going to own my truth and we can keep it pushing. Like we can move on from this, Andy. And Andy said, okay, girl. So the argument ends and we shift over to Lisa's package. They run her package from the beginning of the season when the ladies go to Provost Canyon and everybody is wondering, like, where is Lisa? Like, why isn't she here? To the ladies sitting down in Provost Canyon talking about it. Bronwyn bringing up that she saw 5 lawsuits. Angie saying someone say they're comparable to Jen Shaw. You can tell that Angie somewhat feels bad about saying that because every time the camera panned to her face, this was her face the entire time. Like she was cringing really hard. So then the conversation or the package, I would say, continues on with them showcasing Lisa and Bronwyn getting into it at Amy's house. And that's when Lisa called Bronwyn a gout dick sucker. And Bronwyn tells Lisa, girl, at least I know where my money's coming from. Does your husband know who paying for your stuff? you know? And then it goes where Angie and Lisa arguing at her failed luncheon, where Angie tells Lisa, you do French fries, I do franchises. And Angie thought she ate Lisa up. Now, I will say she did gag Lisa, because Lisa was stuck after she said that. She was like, and then it ends with Heather saying Lisa is a risky friend. So then Andy ends up asking Heather, do you still believe that Lisa is a risky friend? And Heather says, yes, I do. So then Andy's like, can you explain to me why? So she says that Lisa deals with high stakes, or she plays with high stakes. She is always fighting to the death, and it's her way or the highway. And I said, Heather, if that is your assessment as to saying that someone is a risky friend or not, then all of y'all are risky friends. All of y'all, bro. Like, all of y'all are risky friends, because all of y'all fight to the death with each other. All of y'all want everything to go your way. And all of y'all go to the pits of hell with each other, which is high stakes. So what are you talking about? That lets me know Heather doesn't really have anything to say. And what she wants to say, she can't say. She can't say, well, I wanted to take Lisa down this year because I'm sick of her thinking that she's better than all of us. That's it. That's all. But she can't say that. So the conversation continues on, where Andy ends up asking Lisa, what is your response to that? Like, how do you feel about that? Lisa basically says that Heather is snaky. Heather was surprised by that. Heather was like, snaky? And Lisa was like, yeah, girl, I feel like you've been very snaky in our relationship. Like, us as friends, if you think I'm risky, I think you snaky. So then Heather ends up telling Lisa, explain to me, how am I snaky? And Lisa says, well, you brought the whole farting and making out for camera thing. And so Heather was like, well, Angie's the one that brought that on the camera. And I say, Angie, you see how quickly she threw you under the bus? Because then Lisa ends up saying, well, you're the one who told her to bring it to camera, Heather. And then Meredith says the same thing. She was like, you encouraged her to do so. Like, you encouraged her to bring it up. So Heather says, well, I thought it was funny. And then the camera pans to Bronwyn as Lisa is like, well, why couldn't you just do it? Why did you need Angie to bring it up? And Bronwyn's face is like, like, it's starting to click in her mind, like, ooh, girl, they played in your face. Like, Heather played in your face, and so did Angie. And Lisa's like, that's snaky. So then Angie says, well, you were the one going around telling multiple people this story. And Lisa says, but I never brought it to camera. You did. Which to me is a valid point. I mean, should Lisa be going around saying this? No, but we would have never known about it unless the people she told brought it to camera. And Angie brought it to camera with being prompted by Heather, which Angie, you... Girl, you was up here, and you right here, girl. You right here. You was at a 10 for me, and now we at a 5. We're at a 5. Because I do not understand how you allow Heather Gay to run you, girl. Why have you become her lackey? Why? Why, Angie? Why? Okay, why? So the conversation continues on with Lisa basically spilling the beans on Angie, where she says, girl, you came up to me laughing in the airport and you said, Heather told me to do it. She said it would be funny. So now Bronwyn is like, oh, like, okay. So then Angie was like, I wasn't laughing. And Lisa was like, yeah, you were. You definitely were laughing, girl. You definitely were. So they start going back and forth with Angie saying, you were going around saying that you would say things to people's face, and you were saying, I never did this, I never did that. And here's my thing, Angie. If you wanted Bronwyn to know that, you would have pulled Bronwyn to the side, or you would have told her off camera. You decided to do it at a table because you wanted to get a shot at Lisa. And I'm not going to lie, you didn't miss your target, because the way in which Bronwyn reacted to that, screaming and crying and telling Lisa she was dead to her and that, like, she needed to stop talking about my family and demanded an apology. You got your shot at the expense of Bronwyn. And if Bronwyn was smart, she would realize that neither Heather nor Angie like her. And I've been telling y'all that they don't like that girl. Heather, since season 5, and even in current time, has been calling Bronwyn a liar in so many ways. And Bronwyn think that lady her friend, and was even defending her later on in this episode. And I said, your hatred for Lisa, which you don't gotta like Lisa, but girl, don't let your hatred for somebody blind you to the person sitting beside you who means you no good. Because then you have Angie, who also doesn't like you. Because if I was Bronwyn, I would never forget Angie's little post that text message that she sent out. Someone who texts that don't like you, girl. Like, that person does not like you. And Angie was okay with making you collateral damage, but because Angie still has a heart to a certain extent, she felt bad. That's why she apologized to you when y'all got off that yacht, because she didn't expect you to react that way. When I tell you, Bronwyn, I really do feel like season 7 is going to be a hard season for her, especially with this whole Todd situation, because Heather doesn't like you, and I really do feel like Heather's going to try to paint you out to be a liar. I would be so surprised if Heather decides to be like a nice person to Bronwyn. And Whitney is Ashley Darby 2.0. She gonna get her lick back for the way you did her with Meredith. And you thought all that screaming and yelling on that bus trying to showcase that you were on their side when y'all were in Greece was enough. Oh, they gonna get you back, girl. They gonna get you. So then Lisa tries to talk, but they're talking over her. So Lisa says, if y'all will stop talking over me and stop trying to tag team me, then I can speak. And she was like, y'all have this codependent relationship in your responses and actions when it comes to me. When I tell you Angie and Heather were so surprised that she got them like that, because they both were like, ugh. And even Andy was kind of like impressed, where he was like, oh. Like he had like a cute little smirk. I said, okay. And so Heather's like, that's really rich coming from you, Lisa, about a tag team. She was like, and Lisa was like, I don't tag team. And then this is the scene where I said it looked like Heather had an extendo clip attached to her chin. And I heard Here Come the Crimson Chin, like theme music. Cause she leans over, that chin slides down, and she said, you and Meredith don't tag team? You and Meredith don't tag team. And Meredith was like, no, girl, Meredith's like, we're friends. Like, and Lisa's like, that's called being a loyal friend. And then Lisa responds to Heather like, girl, I'm solo, honey. I'm good on my own. So Heather rolls her eyes and she was like, so then why does Meredith ride so hard for you? And Meredith again says, girl, because we're friends and I'm a loyal friend. And Lisa's like, and I'm a loyal friend to her too. And then Lisa's like, that's a Utah thing, that whole riding thing. And so Heather says, you would know, you're from Utah. And Lisa's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. She was like, you've been in Utah for 25 years, Lisa. You're on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And Lisa's like, I'm not from Utah. My DNA is not Utah. And so then Andy says, what's your DNA, Lisa? And Lisa says, New York, thick and through. I'm not going to lie. Even if I lived in the state of Utah, I wouldn't claim it. Utah is a weird place. Like, I don't see nobody vacation. Well, I don't see no black people vacationing in Utah. Maybe they might go skiing, but I don't know nobody who, like, out of any of my friends that are like, oh, let's go to Utah. Like, I would say if I had moved to Utah, I'd be like, yeah, girl, I'm from New York as well. I'm from New York. I'm from New York. Okay. I'm not from Utah. So it was so interesting how upset Heather was getting that Lisa kept saying she wasn't from Utah. And then I saw this tweet online where it was like this picture of this girl and it was an altar and it had all these pictures of Lisa on it. And someone was like, go check Heather's closet. I screamed. Because Heather does borderline with obsession with Lisa. Why are you so pressed that she says she's not from Utah? Like, why is that such a big deal? Like, why? like, why? So then the conversation continues on, and Andy ends up asking Mary, like, do you think Lisa is a risky friend? And Mary says yes. And so Lisa's like, okay, then how am I risky, Mary? Cite your sources. Give me examples. I said, okay. And Mary said, for like, starting off, girl, you're a little delusional. And Lisa's like, okay, I'm delusional. But I'm like, Mary, you're delusional as well. Like, let's not do that, girl. So then she was like, you saying that you live a totally different life from us? And then they flash back. And I really don't understand why that bothers them so much, because I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Like, if Lisa were to say that about me, I'd be like, okay, girl. Even if I knew Lisa didn't live a different lifestyle from me, I would just laugh in her face and keep it pushing. I really do feel like they take stuff from Lisa to heart too much to me. So then Mary says that doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense that you would say something like that. So then Meredith tries to jump in and defend Lisa. And she was like, well, I wasn't offended by it. And then Lisa just says, like, I wouldn't be insecure or offended by saying that they live a different lifestyle than me. Like, it's not that different. And Meredith was like, we all live a different lifestyle from each other. So then you hear Heather on the side to Angie. So that's not tag teaming. Heather is bothered. Like I said, Heather is bothered at the fact that Meredith and Lisa are helping each other. And honestly, I don't really think it's that deep that they're tag teaming at this point. It's 6 against 2. It is what it is. So then Angie, after Heather says something, speaks up and she's like, well, you were just making a comment about us tag teaming and look at you, like, look at what you're doing right now. Like, look at what y'all are doing. So then Whitney at the end of the couch was like, they're tag teaming. So then Andy switches the energy and he ends up asking them a viewer question, but the question is directed towards Whitney. This person ends up saying, Whitney, why were you so eager to bring up Lisa's lawsuits without her being there to defend herself? You hear Meredith under her breath saying because she didn't want to have to talk about any of the stuff that she got going on, pretty much. So Whitney ends up saying she did not believe that Lisa wasn't on the trip because she was away at work. She was like, she thought she wasn't on the trip for different reasons, because Lisa never misses a girls trip and she never misses an opportunity to film. She was like, and she never saw a picture of Lisa with Ben Affleck. So Lisa pulls out her phone, and then we end up hearing her say, you know, I do amazing work. Lisa says this. I do amazing work. Heather's been to my events. Meredith has been to my events. Like, what are you trying to get at? So then Whitney ends up saying, like, well, you were in Miami. Like, I saw you post a picture in Miami, and I thought you were getting, like, and she did this to her face, like basically saying work done. So Andy says, you think she got a facelift? And Whitney was like, well, yeah, because I've never seen Lisa post a picture of her with Ben Affleck. And it does seem like Lisa posts all the time. I don't follow any of the housewives. None of them. Even the ones I like, I don't follow. So I wouldn't know if Lisa is that type of person that posts everything that happens to her. But it seems as though that she does. So Whitney is like, there was no picture of her with Ben Affleck. So they do show the picture of Lisa in Miami, down at I guess she was at a pool or maybe on the beach. And Whitney says she looked so beautiful. She was barefaced, no makeup. And Lisa kind of gets an attitude because she kind of feels like Whitney is trying to give her a backhanded compliment, which I think she was, because the moment that Whitney shifted to starting to rag on Lisa, I said, girl, you never meant what you said. So she just like, Whitney's like, I just gave you a compliment. And Lisa's like, girl, she paid it. Lisa paid it. So then they showed the picture. Lisa pulls up a picture of her and Ben Affleck in 2017. Girl, this is why the people think you delusional, Lisa. Because what? What does this have to do with anything? It's 2025 when you were supposed to be hanging out with this man. Where's the recent pictures? Where is it? So then Whitney ends up saying there's a lot of good doctors in Miami because that's where she saw Lisa was in Miami. So then Mary says, well, he wasn't a good one. And then you hear Angie say, or a not so good one. And they're all laughing. And my energy would have been directed towards Heather if I was Lisa, because I would have been like, girl, look here, extendo chin. You spent over $200,000 to reconfigure your body. Girl, you got eyelid surgery. You got veneers. You had to do all of this. Girl, if I got a facelift, that means it's the same face, just the skin is peeled back. There's a difference. Okay? I'm like, there's a difference. So shut up, Heather. Okay? So Lisa ends up saying, like, y'all are sitting here thinking it's cool to, like, denigrate my character. And she's like, y'all could be like, Lisa's a baddie. She's been working in this industry for 18 years. But no, this is what y'all are doing. And she says, if I were to do what y'all were doing, y'all would be pissed. So then Angie says, but you do that, Lisa. You do talk poorly about our businesses. You are very negative about your friends. You are. So then Lisa said, girl, you tried to say you don't understand what I do in my business. And then you compared me to Jen Shah. Angie jumped right over that. She didn't even address the whole Jen Shah thing. And then Angie said, but you don't understand my business, Lisa. I don't understand yours and you don't understand mine. And Lisa's like, girl, I do. And Angie's like, well, open up a salon then, Lisa. And Lisa says, no, I open up lounges. And they start going back and forth because Lisa's like, I'm really good at that. And, you know, I don't want to do hair. So then Angie says she's in the beauty industry. It's different than what you do. And Lisa says, girl, I understand the service industry extremely well. Because I don't think Angie really understands that, like, girl, yes, beauty industry is different, but it's still a service. And Lisa opening up lounges and creating an experience is still service. It may be the food industry because it seems like they give out food and alcohol and stuff like that and beverages, but it's still a part of the service industry. Both of y'all's industries is in the service industry. It's just different tiers. Beauty, food. Girl, now do I think Lisa could run a salon? I don't know. I don't think so. Do I think Angie could run a lounge? I don't know. I don't think so. But Angie tries to act the same way as Lisa. Like, she's so different. When it's like, girl, y'all were friends for almost like 2 decades. You are just alike. You might just be a little bit more rational, Angie. The conversation shifts and we get away from Angie versus Lisa to Lisa versus Bronwyn. So it starts off with a viewer asking Bronwyn a question where the person was like, Bronwyn, why would you jump on the bandwagon of airing Lisa's lawsuits out when you also have lawsuits of your own? Bronwyn admits that her and Lisa at the time were not speaking, that she had just found out that she was blocked on everything. You hear Lisa say, and still do. And I giggled because one of my best friends is a Sagittarius. That's what I call her. And she is just like Lisa, not delusional, but very like, when she don't like you, she does not like, she don't care. Like, she'll let it be known, I do not like you. Like, and she'll just be like, yeah, I blocked you and I still have you blocked. What you gonna do about it? You know? So then Bronwyn says that the last time she saw Lisa made it pretty clear that like they weren't friends, and the way that Lisa was behaving on Twitter made it clear that they probably would never have futures as a friend or as friends. So then she goes on to say that she didn't go digging for any information. She was just repeating what she saw in the local news, which I agree with that. And I think she's telling the truth, because all people know Utah for is reality TV shows and Mormonism. So this definitely was going to be on the show. So then Andy ends up asking Lisa, how do you feel about this? And Lisa says, I think the goal of hers was to denigrate my character. Bronwyn says, like, you denigrated mine. And Lisa said, no, you denigrated your own character with your lies. And I believe, and I side with Lisa. Like, you lied 3 times, Bronwyn. You lied on Watch What Happens Live, you lied on The Reunion, and you lied on The Veil Files. And then you tried to gaslight people when people were like, this doesn't really sound right, Bronwyn. So if people feel like you might have a flawed character, that was your decision and based off of your actions, ma'am. Now, granted, you apologized and said, you know what, I did lie. I wanted to be cool. That's why I did it. And some people are accepting it, but you can't be mad at the other people that are like, ooh, I think Bronwyn is very liberal with the truth, because we've seen you misrepresent the truth. The same way people feel like Meredith shapes a narrative, you do the same thing. And you can't just blame Lisa for that. You're starting at point B when you have to start at A. If you would have never lied, Lisa would have never busted you out about lying. It is what it is. That's the game of Housewives, girl. And at the time, y'all didn't like each other. So just like you don't like her now and you bringing up these lawsuits, she can bring up that you lied. It is what it is. So they go back and forth, and then Andy ends up asking, so where are you at with your situation? Lisa admits that one of her cases is summary judgment, another one is in active litigation, and the other ones have been dismissed. She says she doesn't understand why everybody else was worried about what she had going on, because she wasn't worried about it. So then, I hate that I'm agreeing with Heather, but Heather basically said, because you're always saying that you're richer than us, and we see that you're owing $1,000, more than like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Lisa, she's right. You can't go around being so braggadocious and acting like you're better than these women, and then when something goes awry with your finances, not think that they were going to be like piranhas smelling blood in the water, ready to attack. You put yourself in that predicament, so you have to take that L that they were that invested in what you had going on. So Lisa ends up saying, no, they were all allegations. And then Heather says, so a summary judgment means that you have paid the man? And Lisa's like, no. And then Bronwyn's, well, I've won summary judgments before. And Lisa's like, yes, Bronwyn, but our cases are different. Like, yours was criminal, mine was civil. Okay. So then they start arguing back and forth, because Bronwyn says Lisa is using her to deflect. But I'm like, girl, like that a viewer made that question or posed that question, why would you bring up somebody else's legal situations when, girl, you are actively looking at jail time, restitution, probation, or house arrest? You are looking at being supervised by the state. That's totally different from somebody being in a civil lawsuit. It's not the same. She just owed somebody money. That's 2 totally different things. They were saying you were stealing from people. Fraud. That's 2 different things. So if you had those skeletons in your closet, you should have never brought up what was going on with Lisa. That's just what it is. They end up going around in circles to me, because Bronwyn is never going to admit what really happened with her lawsuit, and Lisa's never going to admit that she owed them people money. She's not. So they're going back and forth about, did she pay the people? Did she not pay the people? Bronwyn's like, her case got dismissed by a judge. Lisa's like, the same thing happened to me. Then Lisa ends up saying, our cases aren't the same. You had criminal allegations. I did not. And she was like, the bottom line is you lied, Bronwyn. That's just what it is. You lied. You lied. So then Heather jumps into the conversation and she's like, so are you saying these people lied on you just to be mean? And Lisa's like, no, they were allegations. And if I'm not worried about this, why are you worried about this? So then Heather's like, because you're the same one who's worried about everybody else's lives. And Bronwyn says, yes, you are. You are worried about what everybody else has going on. So then Lisa tells Bronwyn, girl, that's a blanket statement. And she's like, again, bottom line is last year you lied on me and said I spoke disparagingly about your family. And that's not the case. So then they start talking about the whole truth situation that they had, and Bronwyn is like, she's abided by the truth. She, as the truths, I mean, Lisa is the one that constantly keeps breaking the truths. And Lisa's like, no, but then they bust Lisa out for lying because a fan being messy, okay, sends a video of Lisa talking poorly about Todd, talking about how he fat, how he got a small dick at BravoCon. And so they played the footage. So then Bronwyn says, you also called my husband a dirty old man and a pervert. And I said, when she say that? And I thought Lisa was going to lie about this one. Lisa said, he is. I said, oh my God, so you did say that, Lisa? When did this happen? So then we go back to Santorini, Greece, and we find out that the first night that they got there, Lisa and Bronwyn got into an argument where Bronwyn is like, nobody's looking up your husband. And Lisa's like, you got a lot to say about John Barlow. And Bronwyn is like, well, that's because you have a lot to say about Todd Bradley. Lisa goes on to say, if you want to talk about Todd, let's talk about dirty old man Todd Bradley. I said, Lisa. And then Bronwyn says, how many effing times are you going to do that? Stop talking about my family. I don't bring up your husband's ex-wife. So why are you trying to bring up my husband's ex-wife? I said, girl, both of y'all are the second wives. I said, this is news to me. I said, this is mess. So then we get back on the stage and Bronwyn keeps saying that she's abided by the truths, but Lisa hasn't, after Andy ends up saying, I did think you guys had a truce. And Lisa was like, that's a beautiful speech that you just said, Bronwyn, but it is what it is. Lisa ends up saying she did not break the truce, I guess, when it comes to speaking ill about the family, because she said when she was talking to Brittany on the yacht trip, she said she was trying to talk to Brittany in the sense of relating to Brittany about how she feels about Bronwyn's behavior, which I see what she was trying to say there in the sense of like how Brittany confided in Bronwyn and then Bronwyn threw her under the bus. I think Lisa feels the same way because she's like, you told me about this family. You know I have a personal connection with them. You asked me to speak to them for you. And then it feels like you're making me the bad guy, basically. Like you're flipping this on me. And then Andy said, but what about the Todd stuff? And Bronwyn jumps in and is like, yeah, what about the Todd stuff? And she's like, hold on a second. Let me speak. And then Bronwyn says, you've said a multitude of things about my husband, like on print, on video, and on camera. And Lisa says, well, you talk negatively about me to your husband, and your husband has said negative things about me. Your husband said he wouldn't piss on my head if I was on fire. And so Bronwyn said, well, you hadn't seen that before we were on the yacht and before you called him a gout dick, called me a gout dick sucker. And Lisa says, well, that's not my fault. That went viral and people keep bringing it up. It's not. So Bronwyn ends up saying, well, you said you didn't want us speaking on each other's husbands anymore or children, and you agreed to it. And she was like, but you keep like breaking the truths and you're acting like the wrong like you've been a wrong victim here, Lisa, and you're not. So then Andy ends up asking Lisa, what's wrong with your husband, like you sucking your husband's dick? And Lisa said, there's nothing wrong with that, but I only said what I said because she tried to say that I should get a job, I should pay my bills, and I work really hard, so that's what I said back. So then Bronwyn says, so you make fun of my husband when I'm attacking you. And I'm like, Bronwyn, see, this is why Bronwyn gets on my nerves. Because, girl, you can't sit here and act like you weren't trying to insinuate that lady was cheating on her husband when you were talking to Whitney. So, like, just because she called you a gout dick sucker and she didn't see you talking poorly about her and her situation, let's not act like you're a victim here. Because you started off the season with everybody else dog walking this lady when y'all were in Provost Canyon and when y'all went skiing. So, like, if she's not a wrong victim, you're not a wronged victim either. Like, let's not do that, girl. So Bronwyn's like, 9 months later, you're still talking poorly about my husband. And so they're going back and forth, arguing left and right, trying to, cuss each other out and all of that stuff. And then they're like, it got stupid after a while. It got really stupid after a while because Bronwyn was like, you could just stay the F away from me. I've stayed the F away from you. And Lisa's like, I will. And then Lisa says, when they were on the below deck, I apologized to you and we moved on. But Lisa, you didn't continue the behavior, so it doesn't work that way. But then Bronwyn said, but you talked about my husband at BravoCon. And Lisa was like, well, that's because I saw what he said about me. Bronwyn. And so they show the flashback of Lisa apologizing to Bronwyn on the boat, saying she was sorry and all of this stuff. And so Bronwyn said she only accepted the apology, but then you came back and whacked her in the face. So then Andy said, we're not going to get anywhere with you two. And we're not. So I said, can we dead this situation and move on? Because I'm ready to move on. So we move on from that. Because like I said, Andy realized they weren't going to get anywhere. So then we start talking about Lisa and her smoky eye. I didn't care. Lisa laughed it off. She said they went for a look and it didn't land. All that told me is that production doesn't like Lisa, or her producer doesn't, because I don't get why they would not tell her that looks like that. Like, there was no reason why nobody told her that her eye was, the makeup wasn't makeup in. She says she still works with the girl and she loves her. It was just a moment where the look just didn't work. And I said, I guess so, girl. So then there's a viewer's question that's posed to Angie about Angie always resorting to like talking about the ladies' appearances. The person was like, Angie, as a mother, what kind of example do you think you're setting by attacking your friend's physical appearances? You called Meredith a trampoline with eyes, and you mentioned Lisa's facelift and her cankles. So then Lisa says, I don't have a facelift, but yeah, I want to know, why would you say those things? And so Angie, to me, did a horrible job defending herself. It was very much so, well, it's not an insult. And it's like, Angie, it is. So she says, well, what I said to Meredith wasn't an insult. There's nothing wrong with a facelift. Meredith is looking at her like, what? And then Lisa was like, girl, let's not. And then Andy jumps in and he's like, I mean, trampoline with the eyes is not something amazing. Like, it's not. So then Lisa jumps in. She said, or that you said she stretched her ears to pin them to her face when she was talking about Bronwyn. Let's be real, Angie. Like, you said those things. So then Angie was like, oh, and then Lisa said, you also called Brittany a slut. You said she looked slutty. So then Angie said, well, she called me a slut, so I was responding. And I guess that was Angie's response, that I'm just responding to what people are saying and stuff like that. She was like, I don't go around making fun of my friends and how they look. Meanwhile, this is my other thing with Angie. She always pivots to Lisa. It's like, it's always a pivot to Lisa. And that's why I said they're more alike than like Angie likes to like let on. She might be a little more rational than Lisa, but you always pivot. Like, the question was posed to you, what kind of example are you setting as a mother of a daughter when you always resort to talking about people's physical appearances? That has nothing to do with Lisa. Lisa didn't force you to say that Meredith was a trampoline with eyes. Lisa didn't force you to say that she looked like she'd been through a wind tunnel and she had a facelift and you were going to peel her ears back farther than her doctor ever could. Lisa didn't force you to say that Bronwyn's ears look like they've been pinned to the side of her face. You said all of that, and you should have just owned it and said, well, my mouth is slick when I feel like I'm being attacked. That's what I go to, and called it a day. But to bring up that Lisa was talking poorly about her and that you go around, like Lisa goes around talking about people's looks, and Lisa's like, I don't do that. I don't do that. So then I think Lisa made a comment where she said, well, yeah, I did say, oh, Angie looks really good. I should get Botox and filler. And Angie was like, yeah, you told my best friend that. So I'm guessing Angie took it as a backhanded compliment from Lisa. And Lisa was like, well, my circle is really small and I don't just talk to people. And Angie was like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. So then they started yelling back and forth, calling each other liars and stuff like that. So then Andy ends up saying, what do you do? Like, what do you do to Lisa? It took Lisa forever. She says she doesn't do Botox because she doesn't like Botox and she does not like fillers. She did get a CO2 laser on her face. And for Christmas, she did get threads, but she was like, it was pretty traumatizing because I guess she says they took away her eyebrows. I don't know. But like, it is what it is. I don't think it's that deep. Like, who gets surgery, who doesn't get surgery. But I do think it's kind of crazy that Angie couldn't just own that. Like, girl, you was talking trash just to talk trash. So then Andy ends up, Lisa ends up saying, I don't judge other people's looks, so I don't understand why y'all are judging mine. Also, she was like, I don't like that y'all attack my glam. Everybody else is like, girl, are we in the Twilight Zone? Because Lisa, yes, you do. She was like, I'm not good at doing my own makeup, so let me do my own makeup. So then another person asked Angie, are you trolling Lisa with getting like the Arby's sponsorship and then the tequila sponsorship. And Angie says, no, I'm not trolling her. Like, I was gifted really amazing opportunities. And she kept saying, based off of my line, you do French fries, I do franchise. You can tell that Angie thinks she ate the girls down with that one. I mean, it did get her an Arby's partnership, but girl, I don't know too many people who are eating at Arby's. I'ma just be honest. So then Lisa says, I didn't even see the Arby's commercial. I said, Lisa, you lying. You lying. But then she says, it's great when people can benefit off my wins, it's exciting for them. I said, Lisa, oh, I kind of like that. So then they're like, are you trying to say that, like, this is Whitney. She was like, are you trying to say we got campaigns based off of yours? And Lisa says, I mean, look, if I were a credit card, I probably would sue you guys for identity theft. Like, you guys, all of y'all want to be me. Even Andy was kind of laughing. Andy laughed at that. I think Andy was low-key getting his life off of Lisa not screaming and crying the way she normally does, because a composed Lisa is actually a Kiki. So the argument continues on with them arguing about, like, the brand partnership that Lisa got with Kerastase, where Angie was like, I'm the reason why you got that. You didn't even know what Kerastase was until I entered the chat, or like I gifted it to you. And then Lisa was like, no. And then Heather was like, girl, Angie gives out like bags of Kerastase as gifts all the time to everyone. And then Brahman was like, I know you didn't know about it until she told you about it, because that's how I found out about it. And my thing about it is, yes, you told her about it, but you weren't the one that used it in the line. It's the same thing when Brittany got mad at Lisa when she got the partnership. Lisa's the one that name dropped the name. So if you would have name dropped it to Brittany, like, girl, you need a Kerastase treatment, you probably would have got the partnership, Angie. But Lisa got it because she told Brittany, seriously, you need a Thas treatment, Thermacay. Like, so I'm just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So then Andy ends up telling them, we're going to take a commercial break. While they're sitting there, you hear Lisa asking Meredith, did I miss anything? And Meredith was like, no, girl, I think you said everything you needed to say. So you can definitely tell that Meredith and Lisa sat down and was like, girl, this is how we about to operate this reunion. They've been trying us all season, so it's now to get some get back. And I mean, for right now, Lisa is carrying the reunion. So this video is already long, so I'm just going to blitz through and only talk about stuff that was important to me for the last half of the reunion. They talk about how the ladies had 100 episodes and how that's a monumental moment for them. They talked about Mary and how she did a 180, really like a 120, because Mary's mouth is still reckless. When they showed her telling Heather she still thinks she's inbred, telling Jen Shaw she smelled like hospital and stuff, like, and Andy said, what changed in you? Because he pretty much was like, you were very defensive. And Mary said she felt like she wasn't included in the group. But I'm also like, Mary, you didn't make yourself available to be included in the group either. Like, there was opposition there, but luckily you had Meredith there who was willing and wanted you to be a part of the group. So Mary says at this point, she feels like she loves everybody here and she sees the good in everybody. She just hopes that everyone can take accountability and evolve. And Mary needs to also attribute that to herself. You need to take accountability and evolve as well. They talk about Lisa and her sons and being able to watch them grow up. Whitney lies and says that when her and Justin joined the show, she swore she was going to be authentic. And I was like, girl, I don't know if I see authenticity from you. We had, what's her name? Angie. It was interesting because you can tell that Angie does not like the fact that Andy pointed out that, like, girl, you have been trying your best to get on this show. And Angie says she sees herself as an underdog, which I'm just like, I guess, girl, because you have been trying to get on the show and you finally got on the show. Heather talks about how this show has changed her life. And she was like, when she sees the old self, like her old self, she sees that person and there's a rush of pride inside of her. Heather was like, a lot of people didn't want her to be on the show. I don't know if she's talking about the people in Utah and in her immediate community, but I do know a lot of fans. Initially, Heather to me was like a fan favorite. Most people felt like Heather was the voice of truth. People thought she was funny. A lot of people liked her. And then there came that shift, I want to say like around season 3, and it just continued on to where we are now. But I think a lot of people wanted Heather on the show. She talks about how the show afforded her the ability to like get cars, take care of her kids, write 2 books, buy 2 homes. But I did see some people online saying that Heather comes from a wealthy family. So I don't know how much of that is true or not, but I'm gonna let her have it, okay? So then they let Brittany on the show. Brittany pissed me off with that stuffed animal. And mind you, I have plushies. Like right now, I am collecting what's it called? Pokemon plushies. And I have Squirtle, Charmander. For my birthday, my parents got me Psyduck. I have Pikachu, and I have Bulbasaur. All right. And I think I want to get Snorlax. So like, and then I also have like childhood stuffed animals that I'm going to keep until I go into the grave. Okay. But I'm okay with people having stuffed animals, but the way in which Brittany is, it's so childish, and it bothers me so much because it's like, it feels performative. It feels like she's playing a character, and I don't like it, okay? So she gets on stage. Andy shades her because she was like, I'm so happy to be here. And Andy says, I bet you are. I bet you are. They then start talking about the ladies being on the yacht trip, and, they run that whole package. They get to Heather and the cucumber. We find out the whole cucumber thing was a joke that Whitney was trying to play on Heather. Like, she was trying to put it in Heather's bag, but she didn't get time to do so. So that's why they found it in her bag. I didn't even remember whose bag it was in. But they talk about Heather and Captain Jason. Heather tries to gaslight everybody and say that if she messed around with Captain Jason, she will be singing it to the rooftops. You were. She was like, a lot of people have different variations of what effed around means. No, we don't. No, we don't. Everybody knows effed around means something happened. Something went in something. Okay? Either if you're gay, if you're a lesbian, coochies was smashing together. If you're a male, penises was going in places. And if you're heterosexual, holes. Like, I don't get what Heather is trying to do. She's trying to gaslight us, and I will not do it. She's just upset because Captain Jason said, no, I ain't mess with that girl. And Andy was like, did y'all kiss? Like, what happened? And Heather said, we spent the whole time together. Like, that's what after. No, if y'all hung out, y'all hung out. And mind you, I can believe that they messed around, but he doesn't want to claim Heather. And I feel like, Heather, if I was in his position, I wouldn't want to claim you either. First of all, you're saying it on multiple platforms, and you said it while I was at my job. You don't have no respect for me, so I don't have no respect for you, and I will not acknowledge you. That's how I would have moved if I was him, okay? So then we have a person asking Bronwyn about her legal cases. Bronwyn give us a bunch of word salad, basically saying that, like, she didn't seal the case. The case was attached to somebody else. They brought up the Reddit thread where people were saying she stole $100,000 on a company card. She says, well, out of respect for Todd and Gwen, she doesn't really want to get into the particulars of the situation. And everyone's like, well, why would Todd be surprised if he already knew about it? And Bronwyn said, well, Todd's often surprised about a lot of things. He doesn't understand this platform. He don't get why I'm still hanging out with y'all. He don't get why I'm talking to y'all. You hear Lisa say, well, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. So she doesn't really talk about, like, she doesn't go, like I said, she doesn't expound upon anything. But then you see Lisa and Meredith having a conversation, and Andy is like, what are y'all talking about? And Meredith's like, oh, we're just trying to see if there was something that we might have to backtrack on. So Heather's like, and that's not tag teaming. I just feel like they should just own it. Like, yeah, we're tag teaming. Y'all tried us, and it is what it is. So then I think the next question was posed to Bronwyn, where it was like, do you really think Lisa is the leak of this information? And Bronwyn's like, leak is very specific. Lisa was like, no, I'm not. She says, I don't believe Lisa leaked it, but I think Lisa encourages people to leak it and stuff like that. And then Heather jumps into the conversation because I think Andy ends up asking her. Lisa ends up saying, she can read. She saw stuff on Twitter. She started reading at 3 years old. I said, okay, Lisa. But Heather says, I do think she did it, which is crazy to me because I think Heather did it, to be be honest, the way her eyes were like bugging out when Bronwyn said that there was somebody on the boat that knew, like everybody else was on the boat that knew that she was going to be late coming to the boat, and someone in the press got that information. Heather's eyes started darting left and right, and I was like, yeah, I feel like you did it. And why I think she did it is because if y'all remember on Ultimate Girls Trip, if you remember, Whitney and Heather stole the tequila bottle and they were blaming everybody, even made Pepsi cry. And I have never forgotten that because that man seemed really sweet. And we find out later on that it was Heather and Whitney. They put the tequila, I was about to say tzatziki, the tequila bottle, they put it in like the outside shower and nobody knew it was out there, even though Giselle was going on a tirade accusing people of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, Heather probably did it or Whitney did it. Bronwyn says it was either Lisa or Brittany because Lisa and her were not in a good place. I think it was Heather or Whitney, but specifically Heather. They then start talking about friendships and how Heather says that Lisa is an important friend, but like not a good friend. And I said, then why do you want to be friends with her other than to like take her connections? So then it started with them saying they didn't know what Lisa did. That pissed Lisa off. She was like, are you that effing disgusting that you gonna sit here and say you don't know what I'm doing or how I get my money? And I think Lisa was like, oh, y'all are trying to accuse me of the same thing y'all accused Jen Shah of, and that's not what's happening over here. And I will say, shouts out to the people online. They found a bunch of stuff to say that Lisa been working since 2013, you know? And then they show pictures of Heather being at events that Lisa has been at. Bronwyn jumps in and said, what's wrong with her asking this? And then Lisa whacked Bronwyn real good and was like, then what do you do? Because Ty said in Palm Spring, all you do is spend his money. Bronwyn didn't have no rebuttal to that. I said, you should shut up, Bronwyn, because why are you helping out someone who does not like you? And then it ended with Angie and a dumb scroll saying that Lisa has been trolling her. Angie, there better be real information on that scroll because I'm sick of you pulling out scrolls. The bit is tired. It is dead. It's like Brittany and these damn stuffed animals. I'm over it. But this is way longer. This took me too many days to record, but we made it through. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'm out, y'all. Deuces.